They didn't argue with you. They didn't explain. They just stopped responding. One day the replies were instant. The next day, silence. That silence hits harder than rejection because it gives your mind too much room. You start replaying messages, rethinking tone, wondering which version of yourself caused this. Not because you're weak, but because uncertainty attacks the human mind at its core. Here's the Stoic truth most people miss. When someone suddenly starts ignoring you, it's almost never accidental, and it's rarely about your worth. Marcus Aurelius warned that the mind suffers more from interpretation than from facts. Silence is dangerous precisely because it offers no facts, only space for imagination to turn against you. A Stoic does not chase answers from people who withdraw respect. He observes behavior. He studies patterns. He keeps his footing when others disappear. In this video, you'll learn the real psychological reasons people suddenly ignore you and what that silence actually reveals. Stay with me, because once you understand silence clearly, it stops controlling you. Reason number 1, you stopped feeding their ego. At first, things felt easy. They felt seen around you, heard, important. You listened, you responded, you gave attention without making them earn it. And slowly, without realizing it, you became a mirror that reflected their value back to them. But something changed. You became calmer, less reactive, less eager to explain yourself or adjust just to keep the connection alive. From your perspective, this felt like growth. From theirs, it felt like a loss. Here's the hard Stoic truth. Many people don't bond with you. They bond with how you make them feel about themselves. When that emotional supply weakens, confusion turns into discomfort, and discomfort, for the unexamined mind, often turns into withdrawal. They don't say, "I feel less important now." They don't admit, "I relied on your attention to stabilize my ego." Instead, they go quiet. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped doing something extra. Marcus Aurelius wrote that most people seek affirmation from the outside because they lack order within. When you stop providing that order for them, they feel exposed. This is where most people panic. They send another message. They soften their tone. They over-explain. They chase the version of themselves that once kept the connection warm. But notice what that behavior is really saying. "I will lower myself to restore your comfort." A Stoic refuses that trade, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Silence from someone who fed on your attention is not rejection. It's withdrawal symptoms. They are adjusting to a version of you that no longer revolves around their emotional needs. And this moment is critical. If you chase, you teach them that access to you is unconditional. If you stay grounded, you quietly communicate something far more powerful. My presence is not guaranteed. It is earned through mutual respect. That message doesn't always bring people back, but it does something far more important. It reveals who was there for connection and who was there for consumption. Stoicism doesn't teach you to harden your heart. It teaches you to stop leaking your energy where it isn't valued. So if someone goes quiet when you stop feeding their ego, don't rush to fill the silence. Stand still, because sometimes the silence isn't a loss. It's the moment the illusion finally breaks and your self-respect takes its place. Reason number 2, your growth made them uncomfortable. At some point, you changed, not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. You stopped reacting to everything. You didn't explain yourself as much. You became more selective with your time, your words, your energy. To you, this felt like maturity, like peace, like finally standing on your own feet. To them, it felt threatening. Here is a truth most people struggle to accept. Your growth forces others to confront what they've avoided in themselves. When you become calmer, it highlights their chaos. When you become disciplined, It exposes their excuses. When you stop seeking validation, it reminds them how much they still need it. This is not conscious hatred. It's psychological friction. Many people build relationships around relative positioning. As long as you play the role they're comfortable with, the listener, the supporter, the one who needs approval, everything feels balanced. But the moment you rise, the balance shifts. And instead of rising with you, they step away. Seneca observed that people resent not being surpassed, but being reminded of their own stagnation. Your growth does exactly that, without saying a word. This is why the ignoring feels sudden. They didn't wake up and decided to cut you off. They slowly realized they no longer felt superior, needed, or centered in the dynamic. And rather than adjust, they retreat. This is where the pain sharpens for you. Because you didn't grow at them, you didn't insult them, you didn't abandon them, you simply evolved. And being ignored for becoming stronger creates a unique kind of confusion. You start asking yourself whether growth was a mistake, whether being calmer makes you colder, whether standing firm made you less lovable. Stoicism answers clearly, no. A Stoic understands that not everyone is meant to accompany every version of you. Some people are aligned with who you were, not who you are becoming. Chasing them back would require shrinking. Explaining yourself would require apologizing for progress. Over-accommodating would require betraying your direction. So you don't do any of that. You let the distance exist, because distance reveals truth. Those who value you will adjust their footing and meet you where you stand. Those who benefited from you staying smaller will quietly disappear. And painful as it is, this silence is not punishment, it is alignment. Your growth didn't break the connection, it clarified it, and a Stoic chooses clarity over comfort, every time. Reason number 3, they were only there for convenience. At first, it didn't feel transactional. It felt natural, easy, mutual. They reached out when they needed support. They showed up when it suited their schedule. They leaned on you, emotionally, mentally, sometimes practically. And because you cared, you didn't keep score. But convenience-based connections reveal themselves the moment convenience disappears, when you stopped being instantly available, when you delay a reply, when you choose rest, boundaries, or your own priorities. Something shifted. The warmth cooled, the effort faded, the silence crept in. Here is the Stoic reality few people want to admit. Some relationships survive only as long as you remain useful. This doesn't always come from malice. Often it comes from unconscious dependency. They got used to your presence as a resource, your attention, your reassurance, your reliability. And when access changed, the relationship lost its function. Epictetus warned that people confuse what they enjoy with what they respect. Convenience is enjoyable. Mutual effort is respectable. Only one of those survives boundaries. This is why the ignoring feels personal. Because you weren't rude, you weren't cold. You simply stopped overextending. And suddenly, the connection couldn't sustain itself. This is where many people break their own trust. They rush back into availability. They apologize for being busy. They reopen access without discussion, not because they want to, but because silence feels like loss. But Stoicism draws a sharp line here. If someone disappears the moment you stop being convenient, they are never committed to you, only to what you provided. That realization hurts deeply, because it forces you to grieve not a person, but an illusion. The illusion that the connection was equal. The illusion that your presence was valued, not just consumed. A Stoic doesn't respond to that pain by hardening his heart. He responds by clarifying his standards. He understands that access to him is not automatic. That availability is not an obligation. That generosity without boundaries turns into self-erasure. So when someone goes quiet after you reclaim your time, your energy, your autonomy, You don't chase them. You observe. Because observation reveals everything words never will. Those who valued the connection will adjust. They'll communicate. They'll respect the change. Those who only valued convenience will fade, quietly, without confrontation. And that silence, painful as it is, serves a purpose. It frees you from roles you were never meant to play. It returns energy you've been leaking for years. It clears space for relationships that don't collapse the moment you stop overgiving. Stoicism teaches this gently but firmly. If a bond cannot survive your boundaries, it was never a bond, only access. And losing access is not rejection, it's release. Sometimes being ignored is not something happening to you. It's something being removed from you. So you can finally stand in your own center. Reason number 4. Silence is their way of avoiding responsibility. Sometimes, silence has nothing to do with confusion. It has everything to do with avoidance. They know something shifted. They felt the tension. They sensed that a conversation was coming, one that would require honesty, accountability, or emotional effort. And instead of facing it, they disappeared. This is one of the most painful reasons people start ignoring you, because it leaves no closure, no explanation, no final sentence to hold on to, just an open loop that keeps your mind searching for resolution. But Stoicism teaches something crucial here. Avoidance is a form of communication. When someone goes silent rather than addressing discomfort, they are making a choice to protect themselves from guilt, responsibility, or emotional labor at your expense. They don't say, "I handled this poorly." They don't say, "I don't know how to show up maturely." They let silence do the work for them. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people often flee from what would improve them most. Accountability is one of those things. It demands reflection, humility, and courage, qualities not everyone is willing to practice. So they vanish. And here's where the damage happens. Not from their silence, but from your response to it. You start filling in the blanks. You assume fault. You rehearse explanations no one asked for. But ask yourself this, honestly. If someone refuses to communicate when it matters most, what does that say about their capacity for connection? A Stoic does not chase conversations with those who evade responsibility, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Because dialogue requires two willing participants. One person carrying all the emotional weight is not connected. It's self-abandonment. Silence, in this case, is not mystery. It is an answer. It says, "I am unwilling to meet you at the level this moment requires." And that truth hurts. Because you may have been willing. You may have been ready to talk things through, to listen, to resolve tension with maturity. Being ignored when you're prepared to engage feels like being punished for emotional readiness. But Stoicism reframes this pain. You're not being rejected. You're being spared a dynamic where growth is one-sided. If you chase clarity from someone who avoids it, you teach them that disappearance has no consequence. That silence is acceptable currency. That your need for resolution outweighs your self-respect. A Stoic chooses differently. He allows the silence to stand. He lets the absence speak fully. He resists the urge to rescue someone from their own avoidance. Because responsibility cannot be negotiated. It can only be demonstrated. And when someone shows you, through silence, that they cannot face discomfort, conflict, or accountability, believe them, not with bitterness, with calm acceptance. Some people don't walk away because you asked too much. They walk away because they were never prepared to give what a real connection requires. And when you stop chasing those who hide from responsibility, you don't lose anything real. You regain your dignity, your emotional balance, your inner authority. Stoicism teaches this quietly but firmly. Silence used to avoid truth is not something you fix. It's something you step away from, with your head held steady and your standards intact. Reason number 5. You triggered their insecurity. Not every distance is created by conflict. Some are created by comparison. You didn't boast. You didn't compete. You didn't try to outshine anyone. You simply stood more firmly in who you are, and that was enough. When someone carries unresolved insecurity, your presence can become a mirror they didn't ask for. Your calm highlights their restlessness. Your boundaries expose their people-pleasing. Your self-respect presses on the places where they still seek approval. This discomfort is rarely conscious. They don't think, "I feel small around you." They feel tension, and they don't know where it comes from. So they retreat. Seneca observed that no one is disturbed by another's virtue unless it reveals their own neglect. Insecurity reacts not to attack, but to contrast. This is why the ignoring feels sudden. One day you're welcome. Next, you're avoided. Because your presence quietly challenges a story they tell themselves about who they are, how far they've come, or how much control they have. And instead of rising to meet that challenge, they remove the reminder. Here's where the emotional wound deepens for you. You start shrinking yourself, softening your clarity, questioning whether confidence made you distant. Stoicism cuts through this confusion with precision. Your steadiness is not arrogance. Your boundaries are not rejection. Your self-respect is not an attack on anyone else. A Stoic understands that insecurity seeks environments where it feels safe, not where it is asked to grow. If your presence triggers self-examination they're unwilling to face, silence becomes their escape. Chasing them back would require you to dim what you've earned. Explaining yourself would require apologizing for inner strength. Over-accommodating would reward avoidance. So you don't. You remain as you are. Because growth that depends on others staying comfortable is not growth, it's performance. And here's the part most people miss. When someone ignores you because your clarity unsettles them, it's not a verdict on your character. It's evidence of misalignment. Some people can only love you when you're unsure. Some can only stay when you're smaller than them. Some need you to doubt yourself so they don't have to. Stoicism does not ask you to harden your heart against these people. It asks you to stop negotiating with insecurity, yours or theirs. You let them have their distance, not with resentment, with understanding, because anyone who requires you to abandon your center in order to stay connected is asking too high a price. And when you refuse to pay it, silence may follow. Let it. That silence is not lost. It's the sound of a false alignment dissolving. What remains is space. For relationships that don't fear your strength, don't compete with your growth, and don't disappear when you stand firmly as yourself. A Stoic knows this. You are not responsible for managing someone else's insecurity. You're responsible for staying true to your own integrity. And integrity, even when it costs connection, always pays you back in peace. Reason 36. They expected you to chase. Some people don't disappear because they want distance. They disappear to test gravity. They pull back just enough to see if you'll lean forward. They go quiet to see if you'll fill the silence. They withhold to see how much of yourself you're willing to give away to restore contact. This isn't always manipulation in a calculated sense. Often, it's learned behavior. Many people were taught, directly or indirectly, that attention proves value and pursuit proves importance. So when they step back, they expect a response, a double text, a check-in, a soft apology for something you didn't do. And when that response doesn't come, confusion sets in. Because you broke an unspoken script. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people only feel secure when they are being chased. Not because they want you, but because they want confirmation that they matter more. When you don't chase, you remove that confirmation, and silence follows. This is where the emotional tension peaks for you, because everything in you wants to fix it. to ask what happened, to reopen the channel, not because you lack dignity, but because the human nervous system hates unresolved distance. Stoicism doesn't deny that pull. It teaches you not to obey it blindly. A Stoic understands that chasing clarity from someone who withholds it teaches the wrong lesson. It teaches that disappearance works, that silence is leverage, that your peace is negotiable. So you don't chase, you pause. And that pause speaks louder than any message you could send. It says, I noticed the silence, and I chose not to panic. I won't pursue connections that depend on imbalance. I don't confuse effort with self-respect. This is where roles reverse. The person who expected pursuit now feels the gap. They feel the absence they created, and they're forced to sit with their own tactics. Sometimes they come back, not because you chased, but because you didn't. Other times, they fade completely. Both outcomes are informative. If someone needs you to chase in order to stay connected, the relationship was never mutual. It was a test you were always meant to fail, because passing it required self-abandonment. Stoicism reframes this moment not as loss, but as sorting. You're not here to audition for access. You're not here to prove your worth through pursuit. You're not here to perform emotional labor just to be acknowledged. When you don't chase, you choose alignment over anxiety. Yes, it feels uncomfortable at first. Yes, it goes against conditioning. Yes, silence can feel like rejection. But over time, something steadier replaces that feeling. Self-trust. You learn that you can withstand distance without collapsing inward. That you can let unanswered messages exist without rewriting your identity. That you don't have to chase what belongs in your life. A Stoic knows this deeply. If someone leaves because you didn't chase, they weren't testing love. They were testing control, and by not chasing, you didn't fail the test. You passed the one that actually matters, the test of self-respect. Sometimes, the most powerful response to silence is not words, it's restraint. Reason number 7. This is the relationship, revealing its true form. There is a moment in every connection when effort shifts, when you stop compensating, when you stop carrying the weight for two, and what remains tells the truth. As long as you were initiating, smoothing tension, overlooking inconsistencies, the relationship appeared stable, not because it was strong, but because you were holding it together. Then you paused. You didn't withdraw with drama. You didn't issue ultimatums. You simply stopped overfunctioning, and suddenly the silence arrived. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because it forces you to see the relationship without your effort propping it up. When someone ignores you the moment you stop trying, it means the bond depended more on your energy than on mutual intention. That realization cuts deep, because you thought you were building something together, but in reality, you were maintaining something alone. Stoicism teaches that reality reveals itself when excess is removed. When you stop pushing, persuading, and performing, what's real stays. What doesn't dissolve. Silence, in this case, is not punishment, it's exposure. It shows you that the connection was conditional, that engagement existed only while you were investing more, that reciprocity was assumed, not practiced. This is where the mind tries to bargain. You remember the good moments, you minimize the imbalance. You wonder if trying harder would restore what was. But ask yourself this, honestly. If a relationship collapses the moment you stop forcing it, was it ever stable or just sustained? A Stoic does not romanticize effort that isn't returned. He understands that real connection does not require constant repair. It breathes. It moves both ways. It survives pauses. When you withdraw effort and are met with silence, you're not being abandoned. You're being shown the limits of that bond. And painful as that is, Clarity is a form of relief, because now you know. You know you weren't too much. You weren't not enough. You are simply more invested. Stoicism doesn't ask you to resent this truth. It asks you to accept it without self-blame. You don't need to confront. You don't need to demand explanations. You don't need to re-enter the cycle to confirm what's already clear. You let the silence finish its sentence. Because a relationship that only exists when you push is not a partnership. It's a dependency on your effort, and when that effort ends, what disappears was never rooted in mutual commitment. What remains, your composure, your clarity, your self-respect, is not diminished by this loss. It's strengthened. Sometimes, being ignored is not the end of a relationship. It's the end of an illusion, and a Stoic understands that losing an illusion is not a failure. It's progress. What it really means, the Stoic interpretation of silence. After all the explanations, patterns, and emotional triggers, everything comes down to one decisive shift. Silence is not a message about you. It is a revelation about the dynamic. Most people collapse here because they personalize what was never personal. They treat being ignored as proof of inadequacy, rejection, or failure. Stoicism dismantles that reflex at the root. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that nothing external has power over our inner state unless we grant it permission. Silence only wounds when you allow it to define your worth. So what does it really mean when someone ignores you? It means a role has ended, a pattern has been exposed, an imbalance can no longer hide, and that is not a punishment. It is clarity. From a Stoic perspective, behavior is always more honest than explanation. Someone who withdraws without communication is not confused. They are choosing the level of responsibility they are capable of carrying, and that choice reflects their limits, not your value. This is where power quietly returns to you. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you begin asking, "What was I tolerating?" Instead of chasing answers, you observe outcomes. Because the moment you stop trying to extract validation from absence, your nervous system settles. The emotional urgency fades. Your attention comes back to what you can actually govern: your reactions, your standards, your self-respect. Stoicism does not teach indifference. It teaches detachment with awareness. You still feel the sting, but you don't spiral inside it. Silence becomes a filter. It separates those who require imbalance from those who can meet you in mutuality. It reveals who stays only when you shrink, and who remains when you stand firm. Most importantly, it teaches you something about yourself. You learn that you can remain whole without response, that unanswered messages do not erase your dignity, that you do not need closure from others to maintain inner order. This is the Stoic reframing that changes everything. Being ignored does not mean you were not chosen. It means you are no longer participating in a dynamic that requires self-abandonment. That is not loss. That is alignment. When you stop interpreting silence as rejection, it loses its power to destabilize you. It becomes what it always was, a signal, not a sentence. And in that clarity, you regain the one thing Stoicism values above all else: command over yourself. Today, we uncovered the real reasons people suddenly start ignoring you. Not surface excuses, not comforting lies, but the deeper patterns behind silence: ego, insecurity, convenience, avoidance, and imbalance. And more importantly, we reframed what that silence truly means. From a Stoic perspective, being ignored is not a verdict on your worth. It is information. It reveals dynamics that could only survive when you overextended, overexplained, or abandoned yourself. The practice now is simple, but not easy. Resist the urge to chase. Observe behavior instead of words. Stand still long enough for clarity to emerge. This is how you train self-respect. This is how you protect your inner order. This is how you stop leaking energy into places that cannot return it. If someone is ignoring you right now, take this as your practice ground. Breathe. Pause. Choose dignity over anxiety. Thank you for spending this time with me and reflecting deeply. If this video resonated, take one insight and apply it today. Not in your head, but in your actions. Leave a comment with this line: I choose clarity over chasing, and I'll see you in the next video, where we continue building a mind that cannot be shaken by silence, distance, or other people's behavior.